All right, let's dive into what we're watching for. The top things that we'll be watching for in the spring game. Ted, what do you got?
Pass rusher on defense.
Mm,
I mean, that's one of the things that we've talked about pretty routinely is like we do a really good job, despite what some of the statistics may say, we do a really good job pressuring the quarterback. But what we have to do in order to get to that is bring a bunch of pressures, constantly adding to the blitz. Venables is bringing guys from different angles and different positions. What we've talked about, what we really need, and I think is kind of the final frontier for this defense, just as an overall, is having a guy or guys that you can just go with the straight four-man rush, let them go to work, and try and get home with four guys. And I think we've got some players that have the tools, like the physical traits that you need in order to pull that off. I don't know that we're there necessarily experience-wise and making things flow consistently, but to me, that's what I'm going to be looking to is, has anyone stepped up to be a premier one-on-one pass rusher for this defense?
and that it may not result in sacks, but it comes down to guys winning.
Mhm.
And sometimes, unless you've got some advanced analytics to look at pass rush win rate and that type of stuff, you don't really get those stats for a player. But yeah, I'll have my eye on those edge guys. Who is winning their one-on-ones? Are they winning their one-on-ones? Because I don't think at this point, I wouldn't consider OU elite at the offensive tackle position. I think that's fair to say. So if some of these edge guys, whether it's R. Mason Thomas, PJ Adibawore, it doesn't matter. You got to win your one-on-ones. At least some of them, maybe not all of them. Pass rushing is hard. It's tough, but some guys need to emerge as guys that when they get one on one, when the slide goes away from them, that they become a major factor.
Yeah. No, I agree, and you're right. It doesn't, just because you win on a pass rush, it doesn't always equal a sack. But what it does do is it forces the opponent to take notice, to change what they maybe want to do in protection, to keep a back in instead of getting five out, against a four-man rush. So it's critical. I mean, there's few elite level defenses that don't have one, if not more, of those type of guys. So, like I said, I think it's really the final frontier for us, and I know we've gotten better there, but have we like officially taken that step?
And I think that maybe Grayson Halton belongs in this conversation.
Yeah.
There's nothing that can ruin your day as a quarterback more than a good interior pass rusher.
Yep. I
And I
agree.
think with what we've seen, he is the most natural pass rusher that they have in the interior, which kind of is a perfect transition to what the number one thing I'll be watching for in OU spring game. It's Josh Bates for me. Shocker. I've picked the center that is wearing the number that I wore as my top thing that I'll be watching for in the spring game. I just want to see how he handles it all. Right. You are in charge of the entire operation as the center. And I'm interested to see how he manages the moment. And can he get all of those guys on the same page? Can he make all the calls quickly, especially when they go tempo? And then, of course, how does he perform after he snaps a football? There's going to be a lot of eyes on him, man. And not only not only do you have the Troy Everett situation, like when is he coming back in training camp? Will he be ready to go for the season? But the SMU center, Branson Hickman, is going to be standing on the sideline on a visit. And Bates, like you have to feel that as a player.
Hmm.
You have to you have to take it personally, in my opinion, to say to like you want to go out there and play so well and lock guys down so easily to where that guy goes, I don't know, man. I may have to compete with that guy. Like that should be Josh Bates' goal, is to play so well in the spring game that one of the
I'm
guys
gonna
they're
ruin your recruiting.
exactly.
How
I'm
about
gonna ruin your visit, bro. But yeah, there's gonna be all kinds of eyes on him. And Ted, I can't wait to see how he plays.
yeah. I'm in the camp of uh, give it a little bit of time, and I know he's had some shortcomings, but you got to remember how young he is. Which there's been players that come in and can do things young. I mean, I'm obviously aware of that, but a player can make a lot of strides throughout even a short window like a spring, which is only 15 practices, everything included. You can make a really big jump being the starter, getting starter reps, and getting coached as the starter over 15 practices. And, I don't expect Josh Bates to come in and look like a seasoned vet, but I do hope to see that he's made quite a bit of strides since early spring.
I'm with you. And he's got to he's got to have the mentality that he's going to be the starter. I know that Venables said the goal for Troy Evers to be back by the end of training camp. That's not a guarantee. And when he gets back, he's not going to be at his peak.
Not going to be sharp.
I mean, what happens if Everett needs more time? I mean, setbacks happen in knee rehab. I mean, Josh Bates has got to be ready to start in the opener. And I know that there's all of this practice time, right? There's spring ball, there's training camp, there's all of these practices. I get that. But the spring game, it is the most similar to playing in a game. It just is, because there are people there watching. And that affects guys differently. So, and it's kind of similar to what I said about our edge guys going against our offensive tackles. There's not exactly all Americans in the interior of this defensive line yet. I'm real excited about Jaden Jackson and David Stone. Those guys have all American stuff, but they're true freshmen. I mean, Dejon Terry's a solid player. Grayson Halton is, I mean, we're excited about him, but he hasn't produced at all. So when you look at the guys that Bates is going to be blocking, you got to go out there and have a good day, man. Especially when there's a guy on the sideline trying to take your job. I mean, make no mistake about it. They are looking for a reason to replace you. That's college football now. Every single guy. And it's not just Oklahoma, it's all of the big time programs. They are looking for a reason to replace you. Josh Bates plays so well that they don't have a reason, man. That's why he is. It's the number one thing I'm going to be watching in the spring game.
Yeah. For me, the next thing, star power. Do we have the star power? I think that it's pretty well established that we've got offensively, defensively, roster wise, a lot of positions are deep. We've got good depth, we've got good experience, but if we're going to make any type of waves at all in the SEC, we've got to have star power. And I'm curious to see, like, do we have a star at running back? Can Sawchuk, capitalize off the end of what we saw last year? And I think the best thing for him is that he's had a good offseason. He's, constantly been in the mix. He's had a really good spring, gaining a lot of experience. Like, can he take that next step to where we're like, damn, we got one of the better backs in the SEC? Wide receiver. I mean, we've had good players at wide receiver. We got good talent. But do we have a star, a college football star at wide receiver? Yet to be seen, in my opinion. What's Bauer Sharp? Defensively, we've got good play. We got Stutzman coming back. We've got obviously Billy Bowman coming back. But can those guys elevate to the next level? Big players, good players in the Big 12, right? Well known in the Big 12, not as well known nationally. Can those guys? And I know, but we're probably not going to see much of either one of those guys because of the seniority. But I mean, that's kind of the thing for me is, are we going to have star power defensively, offensively, and defensively?
You have to have some guys that even the most casual fan, as they're watching the spring game, go, I know that guy's good.
Mm-hmm.
I know that guy's one of the best players on the team. And it ties into one of mine, Ted. And it said, and mine was, do we have an RB that has the juice?
Yeah.
You mentioned Sawchuck. Clearly, there's a lot of excitement about Caleb Hicks. Javonte Barnes seems to be getting back into form. You got Sam Franklin, and I know that Taylor Tatum's coming in the summer. I understand that. But I feel like you know it when you see it. You know a running back that's got the juice when you see it. And we've seen glimpses from Sawchuck at times when he's been healthy throughout the last couple years. We haven't seen it nearly consistently enough. We've seen glimpses from Barnes, but we haven't seen it consistently enough. And I'm just interested in what running back flashes, what running back has that the 2 or 3 runs where you go, damn, man, that's what it looks like.
Yeah. No,
Because you got to have that guy. We keep bringing up
have
the
to.
SEC, and it's because it's a different level of competition. It just is. You got to have a difference maker who can make something out of nothing at times at running back. And uh, I'm interested to see if any of those guys have that type of moment or moments in the spring game.
Yeah. Just to build on that, and we were talking about this the other day on the radio show. I don't know who it was, maybe CBS. Someone put out a top 100 players in college football. And I think Stutzman was like right around 30, like maybe high 20s on that list. And I don't even know if we had anyone else on it. But you go through the list and you look at the top 10 or top 15 players, most of them are on our schedule, you know? And I'm not saying that we don't have players that are as good as some of these guys, because some of it I don't agree with, but we need those type of people to emerge to where we have names nationally that people are talking about. And I think we've got guys that are capable of that. Let's see if they make the next steps.
I like it. What else you have?
I mean, I'm always interested to see what's going to go on at corner. And I know we're not totally healthy there, but it can get hard sometimes in spring games, like for running backs. I mean, you never know what you're going to get out of the offensive line, and like how the rotations match up. Like you may have the 1Ds matching up against like the number 3 offensive line or something like that. It could be difficult at running back, but you could typically see whether the ball's going there or not. You can watch corner and see if guys are getting cooked, who's in good position, who's competing out there in one-on-ones against some of those wideouts. So, that's, I believe this. If Coach Venables said the same thing. Corner is one of the positions that you highlight on this defense that really has to get better from last year. And a lot of that is just having the right guys healthy and all those things. And I think we've got the players capable of doing it. It's just, can we be consistent? And can we show we got some depth?
Yeah. No, I think you made a great point by saying, hey, you could kind of just watch that position and know if they're winning their battles or not.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's some different situations when it comes to zone coverage and who's making mistakes and who's not, all that stuff. But yeah, I think that's something that's easy to watch. So my last one, you kind of touched on it with what you said about the pass rusher, but the last thing I'm watching for is the 5 stars on defense that are in year 2. PJ and Peyton Bowen. Extremely highly recruited. Did some solid things in year 1. Bowen probably had more of an impact than PJ did. I want to see what those guys look like now. Have they made noticeable gains? Do they stand out during the spring game? Because they're 5 stars for a reason. They are extremely physically gifted. And have you developed them physically? Have they developed technically at their positions? I'm going to have a close eye on those 2 guys, because when you bring 5 stars in, and I know there's an NIL component to all this stuff now, but it's still very important to develop these types of guys and then turn them into early draft picks. And typically, not all the time, but typically in your second year, if you're going to be an early round draft pick, you're starting to look like a dude. You are starting to separate from the rest of the pack. And I think that we need to start seeing those guys flash more. And we need to start seeing those guys really develop and start looking like guys that are going to be big time players for this program. The spring game may not be the best setting to determine that, but
Right.
it's the closest thing to a game that we get.
Right.
So
And I agree.
I think those 2 guys in particular, and I know it still makes some people uncomfortable to talk about. These guys are getting paid a lot of money. They're highly compensated. If you want to look at it from an NFL standpoint, they are taking up a large piece of the salary cap for Oklahoma football. So, what are they as players right now?
Yeah.
I
Well, here's the thing, whether it's, I don't know if it's the harsh truth, it's just how it is. The wow, he's going to be really good phase only lasts 1 year. You don't get that anymore. Now, we're not technically in year 2 yet. So the clutch is in. We're shifting gears. We're not actually back out and running. Like the transition from the, hey, this guy's got a lot of potential, to, wow, he's a really good player. Like, we're in that transition right now. You don't get to hang around and be like, oh man, look at all the tools he's got and physically gifted and all those things. Like there comes a point where it's like, show it to me. And I'm not saying we're there yet, but we should really start to see it, to your point. Like, this isn't the perfect example of it. And, there's still I guess a whole nother off season before the fall. You're going to go through summer, which is big for strength building and putting weight on and tightening up some of the technique and skills. But you're right. We don't want to be a team full of potential. We want to be a team that's got guys that are out there absolutely doing it.
I've become more comfortable talking about the NIL piece of thing. Hey, if you're one of the highest compensated guys on the team, you got to be making plays. It's starting to turn into something that's no different than how things are viewed in an NFL locker room, in my opinion. Highly paid guys, you better perform. Right? It's no longer potential. It's performance. So that's just kind of where I'm at. And
wait until everyone, like, the last frontier is, you can look up everyone's contract on Sport Track or whatever that thing's called, or you know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah.
right now, it's like, I don't even know why, but no one really talks about how much they make. It's all like, well, he's got a good NIL deal. Like, no one wants the numbers out there. And I think it's because, obviously all the competition going on between teams, but like, it's not going to be long before everyone knows exactly how much you're making. And that will introduce a whole different level of eyeballs to the mixes. Right now, you're able to operate in obscurity. People don't know the salary cap number that you're chewing up right now. It's a good point.
You got anything else, or do you want to
Yes.
get to call your shot?
Last one, quarterback. Like
Can't believe it
I,
took us that long, but
I know.
yes.
I want to see, and maybe I'm asking too much, but when we're evaluating quarterbacks, folks, we do have to some degree, like, grade on a curve depending on what the offensive line looks like. There will come a point where it is what it is, and you got to make the plays, right? But the situations may not be even out there, so keep that in the back of your mind. But I want to see Jackson Arnold come out and take ownership, and we walk away from the spring game, and everyone walks away from the spring game saying that is our guy. And it's not that I'm rooting against Michael Hawkins. I think he's going to make some incredible plays out there, and he's. I would be shocked if he doesn't insert himself into the conversation coming out of the spring game. But I think, at least for the time being, this team is best off with Jackson Arnold taking ownership, going out and looking like he's going to be the dude that we all have hoped that he's going to be. Because I still think that he's got tremendous tools, great athleticism, smart with the football. He's got plenty of arm. We've seen that. He's got all the tools, and I still think that he can be great.
My hope is that we walk away from the spring game and everyone goes, man, we are set at quarterback for the next 4 years. That's my, or 5 years, whatever. That's my hope, is that, oh my gosh, they both looked so good.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
you got to run the ball. You got to be in good down and distance situations. You got to get good protection. There's all these different variables, right, that go into playing quarterback at a high level. But I think most importantly, especially for Jackson Arnold, is take care of the ball.
Yeah.
Because if he goes out there and throws a couple interceptions, we all know the conversations that are going to take place after that.
I don't want to have those
I
conversations.
don't I
It's
don't want to
great
either.
content for us, but I don't want to have those conversations.